Hello everybody and welcome back to another video on my channel. It is Kevin or Kev or Minis by Kev, call me whatever you'd like. I know you're probably expecting another cardboard castle video if you've been here for a little bit, but I've actually had something that I've been wanting to work on since October, maybe even sooner, maybe even September. I went to Target, and if you've never looked in the dollar section before, well I guess now it's like the $5 section. Sometimes they have like cool little like canister type thing, like domes that I thought would be cool to put a miniature in, and I saw one that I thought was really cool and I wanted to do it. Well, now we're way past October and I was like, okay, well I don't want to do anything spooky anymore, but I still want to do something with it. And to be honest, a big driving factor of why I wanted to do it is because I keep knocking it over and I'm afraid I'm going to break it because the dome is not attached to the base. And I was like, I just need to do this so I can like permanently attach it and not have to worry anymore and put it on a shelf. To be honest, that was a huge driving factor, so I needed to get it made before it broke. This may be a short video. I actually don't know. I haven't edited it yet. I think it's gonna be short, but it's gonna be a cute little diorama when I'm done, and it's gonna look nice. And I think that if you want to follow along, you could probably do the same thing I'm doing, but with a, like anything. You could do it in a garden outside of a dollhouse or in a tabletop abandoned area. Yeah, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, it looks nice. So turn around and let's get started. Starting off here is the little enclosure that I couldn't think of the word for earlier. I found it in the 5 and below section at Target. I think I got it for $3. And it's just this little gold hand and it's holding like a little globe thingy. I wanted to make this look like an abandoned statue thing, and I have this little head bust that I got off Amazon in a bundle. I'll go ahead and link them in the description. They are okay quality. The scale is a little strange on them. They don't all match, and a couple of them will probably come broken, but overall, they're okay for the price, and I like them. Although I will say I think I bought them like 2 or 3 years ago, so they may have gone up in price. Just check the listing below in my description if you're interested. So to start this off, I went into my fabric stash and found this green velvety type fabric. I actually don't think it's actual velvet, but it's velvet-like. And I wanted to have a base on the hand to start working with, because when I started putting down the bushes and flowers later, I wanted there to be a green base underneath that in case anything poked through, and because I didn't want to completely cover it all with flocking, because I wanted to use the flocking to look like bushes, and if I use it for bushes and grass, it would all just kind of merge together and blend together in a way. So I wanted there to be a green base beneath what I was doing. I used the dome to trace out this circle, which I did with fabric chalk because I knew that fabric chalk would come off if I needed it to, although it was going to be on the bottom side anyway. So I used the fabric chalk and then I cut out the circle, and then this is what it looked like. I did have to trim it up a little bit. The circle wasn't perfect and there was some sticking out, so I went ahead and trimmed it so that way it would fit directly beneath the dome. I wanted to show you what my idea was, putting it in the middle, and just overall what it was going to look like when it was done. The only thing that had me nervous about using the bust with the green velvet was I was afraid that the weight of the bust would cause the green velvet to rip up. So what I did is I folded it in half and cut a little circle out of the middle. It wasn't perfect, but I knew that gluing the bust down would cover the hole and also give it a more sturdy anchor to the actual hand beneath it. And then here I show you the difference in scales. I thought about using this other head bust, but it just didn't fit right underneath the dome. They come in such weird scales. I don't even know what they're made out of, like plaster molds maybe. I really don't know, but they're nice looking, just if you don't look too closely. Some of the details are a little off. But yeah, I just wanted to show you what the different scales were like. They're very different in size. To get started on the greenery that was going to go inside this little garden, I have this weird moss stuff that I think I got at the dollar store. I do not recommend this. I'm not sure if I show it here, but I tried painting this to be a darker color. It does not work at all. It looks too much like coral to me or something, but I also have this tough grass that I wanted to find a way to use inside of this. Here I showed you what it looked like after I painted it. It was much darker because the green was an artificial green that they had painted, and it still just kind of looks like a broccoli floret or like dead coral. So in the end, I do not use this, and I do not recommend it because they say you can use it in plants, and I don't trust that either. I tried a couple different ways to make the little grass bush things I ended up making, and I did different varying levels of glue because I've worked with flocking before and sometimes it's just hard to get to stay down and stay where you want it. I tried a couple different versions with different amounts of glue. This very first one didn't work out very well because I added way too much glue, and eventually I learned the right amount. Honestly, I still find glue and flocking to be a little tricky. I think that I've seen people spray it with watered down glue, but I've also tried that in the past and it didn't work too well, so I'm still learning with flocking. If you have any tips, please comment below and let me know because I can always use the help when it comes to flocking. I don't show you here, but I did glue down the velvet, crushed velvet, whatever this stuff is, this fabric. I wasn't too worried about it seeping through a little bit because I knew I was going to be putting on the flocking little bushes. If you are worried about that, just don't use very much glue because it will show through. When it came time to glue down the bust, I put down tacky glue for a long-term hold, and I put down hot glue to have an immediate hold because if you don't know, hot glue holds immediately, but is not always good for long-term. So I did a little bit of mixture of two so I could get it to stick, short-term and long-term. And it worked almost immediately, was stuck on there. Now it came time to make the vines. I watched probably about 8 million tutorials on how to make miniature vines various ways. All of them called for some kind of glue, obviously, because you need the flocking to stick. And I went out and bought this spray glue. It's like an Elmer spray glue because that's what everyone said, like you need a spray glue. I don't know if I got the wrong one. I think maybe I needed to try a different one. Maybe I just wasn't doing something correct, but it was very tacky. Even though it said that this was a tacky glue that had an immediate hold if you used it immediately and would not remain tacky if you used it immediately, it still remains tacky basically the whole time. So now I'm convinced that I used the wrong glue. And in the end, I end up managing to use the ivy because I needed it to look kind of older and decayed anyway. But for future projects where I want to use ivy, I need to try something different because this did not work. Did not work how I wanted it to at all. Someone told me that these ended up looking like hairballs from a cat. So if that gives you any idea of how rough these were looking, I think in the end, they look okay. And like I said, they're good enough for what I wanted to use them for. Now I wanted the vines to look like they're growing up the back of the statue and into the hair of the bust. So I kind of had to lay down small little bits of glue and kind of just poke the vines in as they went up. And there were times where I had to hold it to get it to stay because I wanted it to be a certain way. And gravity is a thing, unfortunately, sometimes. And so it was just really meticulous, slowly working the vine up the head and getting it to stick as best as I could. In the end, the process of getting the initial vines to stick up the bust took me about 20-25 minutes to get how I was liking it. It was a lot of holding, waiting for tacky glue to take hold. And in the end, it looks good, but it was a lot of patience and a lot of trial and error. When trying to make the vines, some of them kind of got ripped apart when I was trying to make them look normal. And so because of that, I had this big swath of vine that I thought would look really good kind of draped over her hair to kind of almost look like a little bonnet or something made out of vines. And so this I had to kind of blend into the other vines to get it to look like it was all growing from one. So like when I said earlier that it looks good, I meant in the end it looks good. It doesn't look good in the process. Because I had bits and pieces of vine left over, I tried to show you at this angle what I was doing with it, so that way you could see that I was just taking bits and kind of molding it in certain directions so it looked like the vine was growing along the bust. The original vine I laid down was a good roadmap for what I was doing, but there were some bare bits, which is where this extra vines came in. So that way I could cover up the bare bits and it looked like one long vine. And I think in the end it ends up looking correct, but along the way, this stuff is very fiddly and it loves to fall apart. In this clip here, I'm just showing more vine work because again, it has a lot of vines on it and there was a lot of molding to get it to stay in place. And I tried showing you in a different angle and you can't see it really, but just know that it was a lot of vines, a lot of rolling vines around this bust to get him to stick. And this is what she looks like when I'm happy with the vines. Again, just the first initial layer took like 20-25 minutes. So overall, I probably spent like 45 minutes trying to get all of the vines looking good and just all natural. I wanted it to look like it was growing naturally, but also in an aesthetic pretty way. So I made clumps of flocking in these little like mossy type, grassy type, bushy type things. I just wanted some kind of green foliage, and really whoever looks at it can interpret it to be whatever they want it to be. But I wanted some growing on the back of it as well, because I felt like if this were in an abandoned garden or just any garden where, you know, they let things grow wild, there would be moss or some kind of greenery growing in the cracks of statues. Another reason I did this is because I wanted to test out how it was going to look, because I had these fake flowers that I was cutting down into really tiny pieces. And I wanted to see what it looked like trying to make those look like flower patches. And I felt like on the back of the head was the most inconspicuous place if for maybe some reason I needed to change it or I didn't like the way it looked. I mean, I could always rip it out, but I didn't want to do that. So I picked the back of her head to start off with this little moss chunk and put these little flowers in. And I like the way they look. They're not super detailed, but I feel like glancing at it, you immediately know what it's supposed to be. And especially when the whole thing's done, the flowers really stand out as little flower patches, and that's what I was going for.
After the flowers came the chunks that I was making of the little bush greenery out of the flocking and the glue. Again, I think these ones end up looking better. They weren't so like hard looking and plastic looking and shiny looking from the glue. However, because I didn't use as much glue, they did fall apart a little bit easier. So these were originally bigger and I kind of had to build them back up to make bush type shapes, which was fine. But again, I would like some tips if you have any, because in the long run, if I need to make bigger things out of flocking, I would like to be able to do so. So all the flowers in this project started off as plastic flowers from Michael's. I think I got them in a clearance section. And the tall purple one, I wanted to look like lavender, so I just bought a full-size lavender and I cut the tip off and then I just glued it in right in the middle of one of those bushes. I don't know if this is actually how lavender grows. I'm not sure if this is how any of these flowers would actually grow, but I just wanted it to look nice. I wanted it to look cute and aesthetic. And you know, sometimes we laugh in the face of science for aesthetic and cuteness. I wish I had gotten it all on camera, which I did not. I do skip some stuff, but basically the remainder of this project was just me taking my flocking that I made, these little bushes, and building them up as I went. I would build up the bushes and then just add flowers wherever I thought they looked nice. I didn't really have a plan. I just know I wanted it to look like a garden that had overgrown or a sculpture garden that maybe they let run wild and free. And I just had an idea in my head and just went with it. It was kind of like I was gonna say free range, but it's not a chicken. It was kind of just, you know, go with the flow kind of project, which I normally do not do. This is what it was looking like at that point, but this is not how it ended up. The next clip is how it ends up, and you might say, Kevin, why am I not getting a close-up? There's a dome going over it, but don't worry. I will show you what it looks like close-up. But before I show you what it looked like close-up, I wanted to show you the dome. I had to clean the inside because this was dusty. I've had this again for maybe like 6 months. Longer. I actually think I moved across the country with it, so I must have had it for a very long time. I had to clean it and put it on top, and then I was like, you know what, this is not looking good because all the lights are shining on it, so let me take it off and show you up close. Also, incredibly difficult to get fingerprints off this thing. I don't know what it was. Here she is up close. I am incredibly happy with the way this looks. There are things that I might have changed if I did it again, but to be honest, overall, I'm very happy with how she looks. The flowers aren't necessarily like, you can't look at them and go, oh, that's a daisy, but they give the impression of a flower, which is what I was going for. I knew that on this microscopic of a scale, unless I wanted to do maybe clay or something, I probably couldn't get it to look perfect. So I was really just trying my best to get the idea across, and I think that it worked, and I'm really happy with it. Going back, maybe I would change the color of the hand. This is the color it came in. I think that it maybe would have been better in a different color, but I don't think it looks bad. It just, this bright gold is not necessarily my favorite color for what I was going for. I do think it looks a little like dark academia. I feel like it would look good on like a shelf next to some old books and like maybe like a statue of a crow or something. I don't know. I think it looks good though, and overall I'm very happy with how it turned out.
Okay, here she is. I'd be really careful because I actually haven't permanently attached this yet. This is actually the issue I was having, is that every time I go around, like I was going around my studio, I kept knocking this off and it falls off very easily. So I'm gonna take the dome off just to show so that we can see it again up close. Look at that. And like I said at the beginning, I think you could do this in like a dollhouse. Like maybe if you had a garden to your dollhouse, or a tabletop miniature if you did some kind of abandoned area. And yeah, I just think it looks really nice. And like I said, you can find these kinds of like, I don't remember what they're called. Closures, I feel like they have a word that I'm forgetting. But like these base and domes, you can find them in all kind of interesting sorts of things at Target. So make sure you're always checking the $5 section. I think I paid $3 for this one. And actually my friend got a tattoo, and when I went with her in the tattoo room, the tattoo artist had one of these with like an animal skull in it with like some crystals and stuff that she had bought at an oddities expo. So lots of things you can do with this. And I really like the way it turned out. I think it looks really good. I think it looks really cute. It's a good use of vertical space. I'd be very careful with her. So that's all for this video. I believe my next few videos are gonna be Valentine's Day-ish related. It is technically Valentine's Day related, but like not in the way you'll think when you see them. I'm hoping to get a video up for the next 3 weeks every week, because to finish this by Valentine's Day, I'm gonna have to do a video a week. So fingers crossed that when you're seeing this, you're gonna see a video every week for the next 3 weeks. And then we'll go back to the every other week schedule. It means I'm gonna have to work really hard because I have a day job that takes up a lot of my time, and I'm going to have to find ways to fit it in there. Anyway, that's it for this week. If you like me or you like miniatures, make sure you hit the subscribe button below, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye!